you have a cluttered mind. Look around you right now and say, is my desk cluttered? Is my closet cluttered? Is my life in general cluttered? That is called decluttering your mind, because that's what we need to do right now. Check it out. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Positivity Experience. It's your girl, Lori, and I'm so excited that you're here. I am happy that we are on the tail end of summer. I am a fall girl. I'm not just a fall girl when it's hot outside. I am a fall girl through and through, and we are knocking on the door. As you are getting this episode, I will have just dropped my daughter off at college a couple days before, so I'll have to see how that goes, and I'll have to report back to you later. I try to record a few of these early on, just for the weekends that I maybe am not available or I just don't really feel like doing it. So I'm early. I am assuming that I had a good time taking her. I have no idea, but we'll talk about it later. And I don't want to clutter my mind with those thoughts. Oh my goodness. Decluttering your mind is transformational. For some of it's harder, right? For some of us, it's a little bit harder because, we might have OCD, anxiety, the overthinking, by the way, is a little bit different than obsessive thoughts. And obsessive thoughts are more of a pure O, which is the O part of obsessive compulsive disorder. It will typically, and always good to talk to your doctor, will typically align with just the O for obsessive. So that's pure O. And it's going to be a little bit more of a struggle. However, you are not only capable, it is mandatory for your transformation. Not, oh, this would be cute. Mandatory. Everyone needs to have a decluttered mind, but certain people need it even more. And that's people who do have anxiety, who do have depressions, who do have obsessive thoughts that are neurodivergent. We need routine and we need to declutter our mind on a pretty regular basis, as I'm telling you this because I am a very much ADD and an OCD type of person from obsessions. And it's important because if not, think of it as like a closet, right? So like I said in the beginning, look at your email. Okay, look at your email. Is your email empty? Are you like, man, I got like no unread messages, like they're all taken care of or put in mailbox folders? How's your closet? How's your drawers? How are the pantry closets? How are the things that you can't really see, but are there, right? How are your messages on your phone? Typically, how you are in your mind is how your surroundings are. So if you look around you right now and say, do I have a bunch of stuff here? Am I afraid to get rid of some things? Do I not, have I attached a certain emotion to a pen, right? To this pen that my dad gave me. I have like 60 of these pens that dad gave me. Why am I attaching all of that to it? And you'll see that it starts to align with other areas of your life, right? So the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So even if you have one little area that you're like, man, I really got that down to a science, these other 25 things that aren't, kind of invalidates that one as far as saying, oh, well, I can do it. Because of course you can do it, but what are you doing to make that happen? So you need to understand what the intentions of mental decluttering actually are. And I promise you, this is a lifelong process. This is not, you're not just going to quote unquote clear the mental clutter and you're like, oh my God, I'm better now. No, I have to do this practice morning I do it throughout the day, but then I also do a 5 journal, I do my journals throughout the day, and I do a morning and an evening ritual. Yeah, sometimes a midday ritual, depends on my schedule. So that one's not as set in stone. I have got to do this every day because every day your brain takes on a bunch of stuff. So when you go to sleep at night or when you try to sleep, and when you lay your head down at the pillow and you're like, oh my God, I'm so tired. And your brain goes, oh, hey, oh my God, you've come to play. Okay, let's talk about all the things we've thought about since we were born and all the things we worry about for the next 30 years. And you're like, wait, why is this happening? Because you've been so busy in life that you don't have an outlet for it. So your mind is just decluttered. Oh my God, it's so decluttered or so cluttered. And that's why you need your data dump journal, your negativity journal. Remember, there's 5 journals: your gratitude journal, positivity journal, negativity journal, mood journal, and your data dump journal, right? And those are so important to have. And they are not all in one, right? I'd rather you do a journal than no journals. But the 5 journals, I promise you, they're not difficult. And it helps you to compartmentalize. So if you have ADHD, if you are a chronic overthinker and obsessive thinker, this is where this is going to come into play. So think about going to bed at night. Let's pretend you've gone to sleep. Okay. When you are sleeping, you are not just at rest. Your body's at rest, but now your mind goes, oh, good guys. Okay. You ready? And it's go time. So your brain starts to filter out things. Okay. Because if you remembered everything that you experienced throughout the day, it would be really difficult for you to function as a human being. I mean, it's something as simple as you saw a bird go by, or this car slammed on its brakes, or, you dropped a quarter here, and like all of these things and these sounds and sights. If you don't filter them, if your brain doesn't filter them, not only is it going to be overwhelming, it's well past decluttering. So when you go to sleep at night, I want you to think of these little guys, like little guys are in your head. And every thought or every experience that you had throughout the day, it goes across this little conveyor belt. And they go, hey, John, let's start. And then it goes by. And then John goes, yeah, this seems kind of important. Let's just put this in our little memory bank. So he tosses it to this other guy on this other conveyor belt, and they store it in the, hey, let's remember this. He also takes it and he goes, oh God, this is nothing. Like this wasn't important to carry. And he sends it over here to Tom, and Tom goes, we can get rid of this. Okay. So I want you to remember that when you're sleeping, this is how we're unboxing a lot too. But you don't have to wait to go to sleep. So you can enhance the quality that you get from your mind when you're sleeping. You can enhance that by decluttering your mind. So the idea of decluttering your mind is clearing out emotional clutter that has accumulated over time. So again, look at your house. Look at wherever you are or wherever you're listening to this. I know some of you are listening to this when you're walking, but when you go home, look around. Do I have clutter? Do I have is my space unorganized? Essentially, that's how your mind is going to operate, right? So you can look and say, where am I from a mental perspective, like not good, bad, sad, or happy, just where am I in my mind based on what I see around me? Don't judge it. Don't say what's wrong with me. Don't say, ew, don't say none of those things. This is just fact finding. This is just awareness because it's important. But you have to remember that your physical space is cluttered, and so can your mental space. And it has the unnecessary thoughts, your limited beliefs, your unhealed emotional issues, and habitual negative thinking. So your negative thinking is chronically going in your mind. So I want you to think of it as you opened up a closet and you had a thought, so you chucked it in this closet. Now you got upset because the weather wasn't as good as you wanted. Chuck that in there. Think of this one big closet throughout the whole day. And sometimes it's like 18 closets throughout the whole day, constantly getting filled. Well, over a period of time, you're going to have 700 different closets. And you're going to be like, okay, well, I'm going to declutter them all. First of all, you're not going to declutter them all. You're going to take a small chunk and start to declutter it. Because that habitual negative thinking, it's going to continuously overwhelm you. It is going to make you feel stuck. It is going to make you feel burned out. And it's just going to make you feel unsteady, unhappy, constantly on go mode, constantly on overthinking, constantly on, oh my God, I'm just so overwhelmed about all of this. That's why you need the decluttering. Don't just rely upon going to sleep, because if you're bringing all that anxiety, you have like this little anxiety guard that goes, hey, no, man, we don't need to get rid of these thoughts yet. We're not done overthinking on them. So that's why you want to do this more consistently, daily, by the way. And when you do that, not only are you more organized, you're more peaceful, and you have more focused energy. For someone who is ADHD, like myself, of course, I have more of the ADD, but it's all under the same umbrella. For somebody who is ADD or ADHD, it is so important for you to really limit the amount of clutter that you have, which means you might have to practice it more than, say, the average person. So again, let's talk about, why does it feel overwhelming? Well, I just told you that if it's persistent and if it's accumulating over and over and over and over again, well, what else are you going to have? You're going to have stress from your daily challenges. You're going to have tons of unresolved conflict. You're going to have obsessive thoughts of the past ruminating. And it's just going to be your mental burdens, and they're going to grow and they're going to grow and they're going to grow. Now, you don't know what's ironic about that? Some of us want different, but we crave chaos. I'm not saying on purpose. You're not like, oh my God, please let me feel overwhelmed and obsessive. No, you're not doing that intentionally, but it's that automatic thinking. If you go back to a few episodes back, I talked to you about automatic thinking process, and in the habits, you want it to become like a habit where you don't think twice about it, which is why it really takes about 120 days for a habit to really ingrain in. Oh, you can see a change, but a lot of it will still be a thought, right? You're still efforting. You still have to think about it. My journals are I don't even think about it. I just grab it, do it, and I'll balk at it. I don't say I can't do it. I don't worry about it because it's automatic thinking. So this process of decluttering your mind can and will become automatic. You will crave that because I'm going to tell you right now, for years and years and years and years, I never thought, when people say, oh, just clear your mind. You're like, yeah, okay, that's not a thing. Like, what do you mean clear your mind? Oh, and side note, over on Patreon, you're going to get an actual worksheet. This worksheet will benefit you across the board. It's going to give you prompts. It's going to have you, not force you, but it's going to encourage you to go through and really understand this mental clutter. If that is your jam and you need that worksheet, go over to Patreon, patreon.com/the positivity experience, subscribe there, and you can have this worksheet and every other worksheet that's been there. But literally, I never thought that a decompressed mind, now, mine might not hold, well, it does a little bit more now, but mine might not have typically held is what some can. And I think this is where people become frustrated. They're like, okay, well, I tried meditating and my mind ran amok. Well, yes, of course, because your instant gratification, you're going to have to pump your brakes with these expectations. Like you're going to notch that down because this is new to you. You're trying so hard to be like, well, I need to clear my mind and be zen. Well, you've been fighting your thoughts for so long that it's become a habit. You've been fighting the thoughts. You've been trying to make them go away. You've been trying to run from them. And so now you're just supposed to be like, okay, well, going to be at peace. Of course not. Your expectations are going to have to be tempered back. And you have to remember that for years and years and years and years, this obsessive thinking and constantly trying to control things and worries and fears and obsessions, all of these things have been in your head. And that is an automatic thinking. You have an automatic negative thinking pattern. But you can also change that to an automatic positive thinking. It all depends on your mindset, what you're willing to make effort, because you have to put in an effort. If you're not putting in an effort and you're looking for this growth mindset, it's just not going to happen. You're going to have to give yourself grace in order to do this. But your obsessive thoughts and all of these mental burdens, they're going to grow and create constant background noise. So when you're sitting in a space of mind, which is obviously the key, mindfulness is the key to just about everything, mindfulness and meditations, in the beginning, you're going to have thoughts. You're going to have those thoughts of like, oh, well, what about this? And oh my God, I can't quiet my mind. Because then you start analyzing. I can't quiet my mind. Why can't I quiet my mind? Oh my God, I'm doing this wrong. Oh my God, this sucks. It's creating anxiety. Okay, stop trying to control it, because when you're in mindfulness, it's about just coming back to base. That's why, and I've talked to you before about meditations, looking at them like you're setting them on a leaf, going down a creek, and you're just watching it, putting it in a white puffy cloud, or looking at it on a rail car. You're not trying to run from it. You're acknowledging it. Well, when you start to do that, your brain goes, oh, okay, I see this. You know what? I don't have to hold on to this. I can let this go. In turn, it's releasing that clutter, the expectations, the perfectionism, clutter. And that's sometimes that really bad toxic clutter. And not only is it the noise, it becomes hard to focus, hard to make decisions, and most certainly hard to enjoy life. Because now you're constantly in a thought pattern. And think about this. Again, remember those 17 to 175,000 closets that we have loaded with all of our junk, all of our mental junk? There's going to come a point in time where you're going to open one of those doors and it's just going to be a domino effect, and every bit of that comes down. It's where you can't feel like you feel like you can't breathe. Oh my God, this is too much. And it could be one, let's call it a small thing that triggers this overwhelm. And then you start judging it. You go, oh my God, why am I making this such a big deal? It's so small. Well, yeah, that's small, but there's all of these other areas that you keep trying to hold on to. Control is not your friend. Your mindset is your friend. Your mindfulness is your friend. Control is not your friend, because now it's just automatically holding on to things for absolutely no reason whatsoever because of your ego. So then ego is now the gatekeeper of all of these doors, and it just becomes chronic, and you feel like you're drowning. You do. You feel like you're drowning. You have all of these ideas, all of these desires, and you're like, F it, I'm not doing any of them because it's all overwhelming. Now you start with procrastination. Now you start feeling bad because you feel like you can't accomplish anything. Mental clutter, right? And this is scientific, that your brains, our brains, only have a limited capacity for processing information. That's why at night, the bedtime thing, where all these little guys in your brain on the conveyor belt, they're in there tinkering around. They're pretty busy. So see, you think you're sleeping. I mean, well, you are sleeping, but they're like, there's a whole warehouse happening, and not the obsessive thoughts. It's just, they're really trying to help you filter things out. Then it becomes hard if you have OCD or other things like that. So you wake up the next day and you go, wait, why did they put that away? No, I need this to come back out. So sometimes you're often fighting against yourself. But it's science. That's science. Your brain cannot continue to go at the pace in which you want it to. It is going to create intense mental fatigue. That's going to come from your worries, constantly worrying, constant to-do lists. You're doing your to-do list all wrong. We'll talk about that I have talked about it in SMART goals and micro goals, but we'll revisit that. But these things are causing so much strife. You think that it's helping you, but then you're trying to control it, but then you're not taking action. So now it just becomes another thing. If you have unresolved emotions, you're not sitting with your emotions. You're in blame of other people. You're in victim space mentally. You're in a victim mindset. These things are all contributing to this mental clutter. And it will create burnout. It will create cognitive function decline. So that's why, and it's always funny because like for me, I have that Puro and I have, luckily I'm pretty balanced with it. But you know what? My relationship with sleep, I'm used to it, and I make sure that there's no socials, there's nothing like that. I have a really interesting relationship with sleep. So often I'm kind of battling against myself because it's this cycle of like, well, you need to sleep. Well, first of all, you need to sleep for many reasons or you will die, by the way. Like literally, like your body has to recover. It's like water or food, sleep. So as you are needing the sleep, but then you have the anxiety of the overthinking. So now you can't go to sleep, and then you want to go to sleep. So you can't control it, but now you're trying to run from it. And now we've created a vicious cycle, a clock cycle. So that's why sometimes you feel like, oh my God, I just want to get some sleep. And your body does crave that. So, but you do not, total side note, stop forcing yourself to go to sleep. I have a whole podcast on that too that I've already done. On stop. If you're not tired or if you can't sleep, get up 20 minutes. Do not get on your phones. Do not lay in bed. Do not clock watch. But again, if you're doing all of that, that's mental clutter, right? Because we're going to have mental clutter. Let's not make it seem like there's something wrong with you. You're going to have clutter throughout the day. Not might, you will. But it's what you do with that. Now, there is a key, and I have an entire podcast on this, of letting go and the role of letting go. This is a master part of decluttering your mind. Again, backed in science. This is not an opinion. This is not an experience. Well, I have had that experience and it does work, but this is based in science. The moment you attach, side note, the moment you attach truth and fact to a thought, to a feeling, to a false belief, and to an emotion, right? I said attachment. I didn't say don't feel it. I didn't say avoid it. An attachment. Then you're not letting go. So you're unintentionally, I should say, not letting go of mental clutter. You're holding on to it. But if the idea and the concept, and it does work, and stop saying, how do I let go? Go listen to the podcast. It is going to be ego. It is going to be radical acceptance, lowering your ego, radical acceptance, action. Stop saying, I don't know how to let go. Me and 18,000 other people are giving you the tools. You got to use them. Stop making things more complex than it needs to be. But when you release the attachments to the thoughts, the beliefs, and the emotions that are no longer serving you, it is going to be not only transformational, it's going to free you up in many areas. Forgiveness, oh my goodness, forgiveness, forgiveness, forgiveness. It's forgiving yourself or forgiving others. Now listen, you might hear people go, well, you don't have to forgive to move on. Then hold on to it. You're right. You don't have to forgive to move on. You can move on, but you're not really letting go. The art of forgiveness is always for you. I moved on from my molestation and some of the many other nonsensical things that I had to experience and go through. Like I've literally let it go. Like people are saying, how? Because I'm not that situation. I'm not mad at my dad who had no idea or emotional regulation. I'm not mad. I don't know what to tell you. Some people actually want me to be mad and want me to hold on to it. I'm not doing, I mean, they don't anymore years ago. And it wasn't like a doctor. It was like friends and I can't believe this and you're wrong. Okay. I choose to forgive for me. You want to talk about let go of a big chunk of mental clutter. That's how you do it. See, you get caught up thinking, well, I'm permitting something. No, you just have this person living with you in the shower, in the car, at night in bed, when you're eating, when you're brushing your teeth. That person's still standing there, that situation. So it's not helping you. You've got to also abandon these unrealistic expectations. You've got to abandon these unrealistic expectations. You've got to stop doing that because this expectation of this person owes me this and this person, this person has to apologize and this person has to do this and oh my God, everything's got to be at the top shelf for everything that I do. It's got to be perfect. It's got to do this. You are attaching. This is an attachment. You are attaching a belief to this emotion. In turn, you're not going to let go of this mental clutter because you're attached to it. And it's going to keep going and it's going to keep going and it's going to keep going until you decide, you know what, I'm going to set this down. And it's okay. Like I know I've been carrying this for a long time and it kind of became a little bit of my identity, but it's okay to leave it where it is. Abandon these expectations. They're unrealistic expectations because it's so important. And there is something called deciding to stop ruminating. And while I know you're going to say, oh my God, I would love to do it. No. It's the one thing that I had struggled with longest, and it will creep up every now and again, but it's a decision to say, I am not going to ruminate on this. You know, I want you to try something and it's going to seem so simple. And you're like, oh my God, why? That seems way too simple. Again, we make things so complex as humans because we feel like things should be like really difficult, but some things will be and some things don't have to be. And this is what I'm going to tell you is one. It's a real game changer. It is not meant to be an immediate fix. And this is something you're going to have to do pretty frequently. I'm going to give you the little thing to say here in a second, but you've got to be willing to do it. And that is when you start the obsessions, when you start overthinking, you start doing this and you start building that mental clutter, you say, I am not thinking about that right now. I mean, that's it. I am not thinking about that right now. It's a pattern interrupt. Okay. Now, what you don't do is go, I'm not thinking about that right now. See, look, I'm still thinking about it. Because stop that. Because now you're looking for it to fail. You're looking for it to not work. Because again, this goes back to that subscribed chaos. We subscribe to chaos based on the fact that we're used to chaos. We subscribe to toxicity because we have been used to toxicity for many, many years. We don't want it. We don't really want it, but we subscribe to the comfortability in it. For many of us, living in obsessive thoughts and constant mental clutter isn't serving us, but you're used to it. So there's a level of comfort there, right? Because then you know the monster, so to speak, that you're dealing with because you've lived with it versus, oh my God, what happens? Well, like, what does this mean? Like, I don't know how to change this. And that's okay. But when you say, I'm not thinking about this right now, just breathe. Just breathe into that. Okay, I'm not thinking about that right now. And then you can also pair that with, I like to see myself put whatever it is on top of a little leaf. and watch it kind of spiral down this little creek, and it goes, and it's a nice, comfortable fall day, and it goes down here, this creek, and I watch it go down. At the same time, I go, okay, I'm not going to think about that right now. Doesn't mean it's not going to creep back up. But the more you pattern interrupt, the less that becomes an automatic thought as far as the obsessive thinking. And the I'm not thinking about that becomes way more consistent. Do it. Do it 100 times if you need to a day. But do it, but don't do it saying I'm not thinking about that right now and then go, but it's not working. Because see, people do that a lot. Oh, I tried meditating. It doesn't work. Okay, you tried meditating twice and you had these expectations that you were going to close your eyes and be like, oh my God, my mind is free and now I'm peaceful and I'm going to wake up and I'm going to be great. I'm going to have no stress. Remember what I said? Unrealistic expectations. Okay, and there is psychology, again, science behind this. When you let go and you accept things as they are, not as you want them to be, not as you wanted to be, there is an increase in cognitive functioning. Okay, because if you go into a big old room and it's just, oh my God, it's so tight and it's hot and there's all this noise and all these things are going on, it's going to be hard for you to use like knowledge where you're like, okay, let me think what my function should be here versus the overwhelm. Well, as you start to declutter some of that, now you have more space. Now you're like, oh, wait, let me breathe. Okay, now I can make that decision. You don't feel as behind the eight ball with it. And it's also the ability to adapt. This is a key. This is where your ego comes into play. This is where your control comes into place. Often your victim mentality comes into play and refusal to adapt to change. I can guarantee you with any amount of money and any amount of whatever you want me to put on it, change is inevitable. Change will happen. Change is constant. Change isn't going to stop. People come, people go, situations come, situations grow, weather comes, weather goes. Change is consistent, period. So if you focus and you go, okay, I need to control this narrative. I'm going to get up at this time. I'm going to get to work at this time. Valid. But let's say you run into a little traffic and it's now you're going to be late. Okay, well, you can be flustered about it. How's that helping you? Well, this is what I said I was going to do, and this was my plan. Okay, well, it changes. It changed it. Good God. It changed. Are you willing to adapt? You know, I told you guys the story. My son was down at the ocean, drove down, had a big plan, got a flat tire. It was inconvenient. After an hour and a half, he was ready to go, and he went back about his business. He did not let that shift piss him off. He did not let that shift stress him out, because the mindset is, don't let a bad moment make a bad day. Okay? Adapting to change. Oh man, I really wanted to go to that restaurant. Oh man, that restaurant's closed. Okay, well, bitch and complain about it if you want, or just say, okay, well, maybe I'm gonna eat this instead. Okay, be disappointed and go there in a week. But you got to be willing to adapt to change. If you're not willing to adapt to change, this is going to become an issue. Because your clutter is going to live there, right? So think of it as like hippie time, right? Your peace, love, and happiness, your little flower, you're bouncing through the day. You're like, I kind of wanted this to happen, but c'est la vie, it is what it is. Or you can go in hyper, ready for battle. This is how it's got to be, which again is your ego. And you think you have a sense of control. My God, you don't. It's the exact opposite. When you're trying to control the narrative, you have no control. Only the control in which you have within your brain. And you got to understand that letting go, it reallocates resources for yourself. It's a reallocation, right? Because think about this. If you have 10 people and I have 18 boxes per each person, but I'm like, hey, can somebody come over here and help me move this? Y'all are like, I got nothing. But if I remove a couple people with these 18 boxes, now I got a couple resources that have freed up. You can do that in your own life. But are you willing to? Are you willing to? It's a decision. You choose every single morning that you're lucky enough to be on the face of this planet, how you're going to see the day. Not how the day is going to go, how you're going to see the day. Because the day isn't on your schedule. People's reactions and responses and how they feel, not your responsibility, and vice versa. So if you're not willing to adapt, you're going to stay in this chronic cycle of stress. It's just going to stay there forever. I mean, it's just how it's going to go. So if you want more productivity and feeling more at peace and being okay with who you are, never run from the silence. Because many people want their mind to declutter, but let's say that you've done it. Let's say you've gone to a retreat. I mean, oh my God, you're like, oh, this is the best feeling I've ever had in my life. And then you start going with that, oh my God, what if it goes? When is it leaving? What is it? Okay, breathe. You will go in and out of moods. You will go in and out of the day. Not every day is going to be blissful. How are you going to see it? How are you going to see it? And that's where self-awareness comes into play. Just a few weeks ago, we talked about self-awareness. Did a great podcast over on Patreon for the worksheet to help you with self-awareness. Self-awareness is, what are the patterns in your thoughts? What are the patterns in your actions? Not what is everybody else contributing, not what is everybody else doing. What is your pattern? What are the patterns? Be self-aware with your actions. What are the patterns within your thoughts and your emotions? Actions, thoughts, and emotions. What is your awareness around it? No, not what or do you think caused it? Not the person and situation. What are your thoughts around it? Okay, because if you are not self-aware, it is going to contribute constantly to mental fatigue, and mental fatigue is very real. Okay, and you got to understand that when you have self-awareness, it is literally scientifically backed to when you're self-aware, you're going to have a hell of a lot more of emotional regulation because you're aware. Again, I've shared this story with you. I know that my social battery, I'm a very unique person in the aspect that my social battery is either on or off. There's a mild gray area, but I am going to drive separate from anybody else. If I'm going to dinner with my husband or if I'm going to a wedding, fine. Let's all ride together. If I'm meeting you somewhere or if I am driving separate, and this is even with my husband, because I know that at any given point, my battery might turn off and I got to go. I don't even say bye to anybody, but you have to realize I've been in his life for 19 years and people around us. I'll just ghost out. I'm gone. I'm not going to tell you my battery is gone. Everybody knows. Oh, she's gone. She must have crashed her little battery. I'm usually send a text to my husband and be like, oh, I rolled out. Because I'm aware. I am self-aware enough to know that it's best for me and everybody else around me to drive myself. Because just because my social battery is down, my husband doesn't have to leave. My friends don't have to leave. Go out and have the best night ever. But my self-awareness isn't like, oh, well then, what if I'm missing out? I'm not missing out on a damn thing because I'm ready to come home and get away from humans. What do you mean? I'm not missing out on anything. So know what it is. That's why self-awareness is a master key to so much, because what drives you? What are your shortcomings? Lean into that. I know if I need to write my 5 journals and I'm upstairs, I'm going to make an excuse not to go downstairs. So I just keep a set upstairs. May seem redundant. I also have my calendar and my planner is online. Everything is digitized, but I also still have a paper calendar. So, I mean, like a paper planner. And yes, it may seem redundant to people. Well, you already have it there. Like, why would you physically write it down? First of all, science has proven that pen to pad is always more effective than just typing something or speaking it into a phone or a computer. I mean, science backed. So I like to physically see it. So I will spend doubling it. I will do that knowing this benefits me. Stop trying to stick to a pattern just because mom does it, dad does it, your best friend does it. Know what know who you are. What are your shortcomings? What can you lean into? Well, that's how you start to be able to remove some of this clutter because you're not worrying about how are people going to take it. My people pleasing is now on. None of that is a thing. That no longer exists. So that's a big part of clutter that's gone right there. So mindfulness, self-awareness, and mindfulness. Mindful meditations is a master lock. And it is something that's amazing. And I think maybe this coming month, I will maybe do a little meditation on the abundance tier on the Patreon. I don't know. We'll see. I have a couple things planned. But mindful meditation, it's never about clearing your mind. It's just about staying present, connecting to your breath. All of the other things that you're seeking will happen. The decluttering, the clearing the mind, that will happen. Your 5 journals are going to be a master. for you. I know many of you do them every day, and I know many of you have seen the benefits in them. Prioritization. This is where SMART goals will come into play. Micro goals will come into play because everything can't be a stage 5 problem. Everything can't carry the same priority. Well, winter's here, so I got to paint this room. I'm going to redo the bathroom. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do. Stop. You're not. Too much mental clutter there. Stop doing that. We want to limit it. We want to make that minimalized in our brain. And as you start to minimalize the areas around you, you're going to start minimalizing those things. Acceptance is your master key. So if you want to declutter your mind, you have the power to do that. But are you willing to do the work to get there? Are you willing to be consistent with that? This isn't oh, look, I did it for a week. Yay, I feel so better. No, you're going to go forward. You're going to go backwards. This will be a lifelong process. But you'll have a pattern. You'll have a system to it. And then as you develop that system, guess what? It becomes an automatic thinking pattern. My morning routine, my evening routine is mandatory for my mental declutter. So give yourself that gift because you deserve to have an open mind. You deserve to be able to receive, and letting go of that unnecessary clutter frees yourself up for self-love, additional opportunities, and getting to know exactly who you are today.